My spiritual reading for the day is from a book called Circle of Grace by Jan Richardson. It's a book of blessings. This particular one is the blessing of the Magi. There is no reversing this road. The path that bore you here goes in one direction only, every step drawing you down a way by which you will not return. You thought arrival was everything, that your entire journey ended with kneeling in the place you had spent all to find. When you laid down your gift, release came with such ease, your treasure tumbling from your hands in awe and benediction. Now the knowledge of your leaving comes like a stone laid over your heart, the familiar path closed, and not even the solace of a star to guide your way. You will set out in fear. You will set out in dream. But you will set out by that other road that lies in shadow and in dark. We cannot show you what route will take you home. That way is yours and will be found in the walking. But we tell you, you will wonder at how the light you thought you had left behind goes with you, spilling from your empty hands, shimmering beneath your homeward feet, illuminating the road with every step you take.
After Jesus' birth, which happened in Bethlehem, Judea, during the reign of Herod, astrologers from the east arrived in Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the newborn ruler of the Jews? We observed his star and its rising and have come to pay homage." At this news, Herod became greatly disturbed, as did all of Jerusalem. Summoning all the chief priests and religious scholars of the people, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem of Judea," they informed him. "Here is what the prophet has written. And you, land of Judah, are by no means the least among leaders of Judah, since from you will come a ruler who is to shepherd my people, Israel." Herod called the astrologers aside and found out from them the exact time of the star's appearance. Then he sent them to Bethlehem after having instructed them, "Go and get detailed information about the child. When you have found him, report back to me, so that I may go and offer homage too." After their audience with the ruler, they set out. The star, which they had observed at its rising, went ahead of them until it came to a standstill over a place where the child lay. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and upon entering the house found the child with Mary, his mother. They prostrated themselves and paid homage. Then they opened their coffers and presented the child with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, so they went back to their own country by another route.
Would you pray with me? Holy One, as we ponder together the story of the Magi, be with us and our ponderings. Help us to learn and to grow. Help us to know light and to be light. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of each of our hearts be filled with your wisdom and your insight. Amen. So the story of the Magi, the kings, the astrologers, is just that. It's a story. But all really great stories have lessons for us to learn. And so I invite all of us into this story one more time to listen for the lessons, to listen for the wisdom, to take into ourselves that which we need to hear for our lives, for our path today. So often, and I'm sure I've done this multiple times, when preachers preach on this, we talk about the search, the going forth and seeking, the trust that it takes to follow a star, the tenacity, the willingness to leave everything behind. Today I want to talk about the end of their part in the birth narrative of Jesus. I want to talk about their leaving. So to do this, I'd like you all to imagine for a moment. Imagine you are one of the magi. Right? You have been on a really, really, really long journey, much further than Minnesota to Racine. You've been going for days and days and days, maybe months, maybe even years. You've had to contend with your own doubts, your own concerns along the way. You've had to contend with your guilt at leaving all of your responsibilities behind. You remember the fights you had with your family when you said you were leaving to follow a star, to find a new king. And you didn't know how long you were going to be gone, for some indeterminate amount of time. And you have been so focused on this meeting the child, thinking about the gifts that you brought, and imagining what it was going to be like and what the child would be like. This has been all consuming for you for a long time. And it all finally panned out. You made it. You followed the star, you found the stable, you found the baby. You knelt down, you offered your gifts, and you had one indescribable, holy moment when that happened. What did it feel like? Tell me what it felt like. To be with that child for that moment. Exhilarating. In awe. Relief. Joyful. That's it.
Completing the journey.
Completing the journey. Also sounds like relief. I made it. Dirty? I don't think they cared about that back then. Did you feel anything from the child, emanate from the child? Peace. Love. Hope. Energy. Wisdom. All of that in that one moment. And you didn't realize when you planned all of this, when you thought it through for months and months and months getting there, you didn't realize that in that one moment, that all of that would happen and you would be changed. To the very core of your being by that moment of sacredness. You sought out a new king, but you thought maybe this was going to be a worldly king. But this was a king of your heart. Somehow, subtly, quickly, that child claimed your heart. You're not quite sure how that happened, but it did. And you can't go back. And yet now you're conflicted because your journey's done. You never really thought about what was going to happen next other than, I guess you were going to go back. But you didn't expect this transformation inside. And all of a sudden it feels like you don't really want to go. Like, I just want to kind of camp out here with this really cool baby that makes me feel really good inside. And leaving feels like a weight. And yet the other half, you can't wait to get back and say, I found him. And try and describe this indescribable feeling and experience to those you love most. And at the end of the day, you have those responsibilities you have to pick back up. So you pack up your stuff. Get ready to leave first thing in the morning. And you drift off to sleep. really early in the morning, it's still dark. You wake up and you are suddenly terrified by an insight you just had. Was it a dream? Maybe? Or was it simply that you'd spent enough time with the people in Bethlehem to realize what kind of character Herod actually was? That his loyalty lay with Rome. That he was a cruel dictator, that he squashed any repression of opposition quickly. That he had a penchant for murdering his own family. Suddenly you realize that, oh, Herod didn't want you to come back and tell him where the baby was so he could honor and worship the baby. He wanted to execute the child. You would come this close to having all of that wiped out. But now you know better. You know in your heart better that you can't go back the way you came. You have to go home by a different route. How do you feel about that? What are you worried about? What are you concerned about? What are you thinking now? Grace.
Thinking that other people may judge me for being paranoid. And
Could be. They might have judged you for being weird following a star to begin with, and now they're going to judge you for being paranoid. Yeah. What else? Carol.
Sense of protectiveness
A sense of protectiveness for the child?
for the child.
Yeah. Okay. You had that connection, and now the onus is almost on you to protect the child. Are you worried that there might be Herod's minions on the road watching for you?
Why I'm going another way.
That's why you're going another way. But they could be there too. Mike,
A liability for knowing the knowing.
a liability for knowing the knowing. Are you concerned about the fact that you haven't gone this route before?
We get lost.
You could get lost. Where's the star now? No star to take you home.
Would they be hesitant to talk about Jesus?
This is you, Donna. Are you hesitant to talk about Jesus? Maybe a little bit, because you're thinking about it, right?
Well, yes, but that people will point at them, wondering, what they're up to, or who this person, who this future king or king is.
Sure. People could be suspect about what you're talking about if you start sharing. Maybe you're worried about, I don't know how whether you have enough money, a route you've never gone before, landmarks you don't have anymore. Everything's so uncertain all of a sudden. And yet you know you have to go wrong by another route. So I can't not talk about the events of this week. Just a few days ago that Renee Good was driving home in her own neighborhood after dropping her 6-year-old off at school when she realized that there were ICE agents in her neighborhood. And so she angled her car, she started her phone. She started warning her friends, her neighbors, that they were present. And I trust that you all know at this point that when the ICE agents came and she was unable to maneuver away from them, that they shot her 3 times at point-blank range and then prevented a doctor from treating her and wouldn't allow an ambulance on the scene. And they left. And the official government statement was that she was a domestic terrorist. She was a 37-year-old woman, a Christian, a mother, a really good neighbor, a poet, and so much more. read you something that Philip Gully wrote before Christmas. He said, "There are some people who will do anything, who will abandon every principle, betray every trust, and violate every standard to win the king's favor. But these wise men, and Renee Good, were not those people. No king, no emperor, no president has absolute power so long as people of character are willing to defy them." This is not the first time this has happened in the United States. We can all think back maybe to Kent State. I was pretty young. 1970, the unarmed student protesters were shot. 4 were killed, 9 were injured. And Nixon said that they were bums and communist pawn. 10 days later at Jackson State, Jackson, Mississippi. Same thing, unarmed student protesters were shot at. 2 were killed, 12 were injured. And the authorities at that time said that they were throwing rocks at cars and that there was a sniper somewhere, all of which were never proven. I was having a conversation this last week with Julie and I were at after dinner with my son and Jordan and his wife Lindsay, and we were talking about so much that's going on and why young people are leaving the churches. And he said it's because people say they've seen Jesus and they don't act like it. Have you seen the baby in Bethlehem? And has it changed you? Or have you seen the baby and you're still willing to run to Herod? And I really wanted to argue because he knows that I'm not like that. He knows Sacred Journeys is not like that. And we all intellectually know that there are lots and lots of Christians out there who are not running to Herod. But it sure feels like there's a ton who are. It sure feels like a lot of Christian churches really believe today's Herod, who says, yeah, I want to honor the baby. I want to bow down and worship him. And the rest of us are like, no, he just wants to kill him. Can we be changed by the experiences of the holy that we have and choose to go home by another way? You know, it doesn't even have to be a big experience. A lot of you know I was a United Methodist pastor for 14 years, and John Wesley was the founder of United Methodism. He had one mystical, moving experience of the divine, and it wasn't even much. He had his heart strangely warmed. That was it. And yet, he preached, and he taught, and he risked, and he worked to bring a ministry and a church that was filled with social justice and mission and care for poor and the marginalized. One of his core principles was for his life and for his ministry was to do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, all the time you can, for all the people you can, as long as ever you can. And I think I mistyped one in there somewhere. But the point was to constantly, because he was changed by that one experience of the divine, that's how he tried to live. We talked a little about mystery last week. And I know all of you, whether you see it or not, I know the fact that you're sitting here says to me that you have had an experience of the sacred in this world. in some way, shape, or form. And maybe it was just as small as having your heart strangely warmed at some point. And so you know there's something more. Or maybe you had a vision, or maybe you heard voices, or maybe you felt a nudging, or you had some synchronicities happen, or it could be you felt tears, or you felt peace, or you felt something mysterious that you couldn't describe like those wise guys did. And it changed you, and so here you are still trying to connect with that again. And so we allow it to change us, and we allow it to lead us, and we allow it to help us be the best people we can be. Has it changed us? And how? How do we see things differently because of those experiences? Can you name anything that's and maybe you've been this way for so long you don't even remember what you were like before. But what are those things that we see once we've touched the sacred?
See everybody as being equal.
We see everybody as being equal.
You're in awe of it.
To be in awe of this something more. Carol?
Recognize connectedness.
The interconnectedness of everyone and everything. The earth, our creation, humanity, all of it. The universe.
Goodness and value in all lives.
Goodness and value in all lives. Everybody is sacred.
Inner peace.
Inner peace.
But celebrating the diversity,
And celebrating the diversity.
not being ashamed of it.
Yes. To not be ashamed of it. To accept it, to celebrate it, to be grateful for it. The world would be boring if we had only one flower up there. And because of those things, to also to know that we have a responsibility and an obligation to stand with and for all of those who are oppressed and marginalized and persecuted. And we don't know the way. We can't go back the way we came. We go home by another route. And we don't have a star guiding us right now. And we don't have landmarks. We don't quite know which way we're going, and we're not sure if there's folks on the road waiting for us. But we go forward together. The night that Renee Good was murdered, thousands of people showed up in her neighborhood for a vigil. To mourn, to protest, but also to witness to the light. To stand against the Herods of this world. To say that no matter what, we are in this together and we will go forward by a different route, finding our way and finding a better day. There's a song we're going to sing at the end called Home by Another Way by Christopher Grundy. We've done a couple of his songs. He's a United Church of Christ musician. I don't know if you remember, probably 3 years ago or so, I went to a conference in Georgia called the Southern Lights Conference. It's a progressive Christian conference. They've used this song as their theme song for the last couple of years. Diana Butler-Bass, whom I follow, writer, theologian, and leader of that conference, wrote about it this week. Let me just share this. It said last January, the conference was held at the same time as the president's inauguration. And when we sang, the hymn sounded a bit sad, unsure, certainly less in-your-face resistance than the previous year. A longing, thought-provoking, prayerful. We were reaching for something, hoping to find a new road home. Or like the routeless magi seeking a different path. There wasn't a word, no turning back. just ahead. But to where? But there were 700 people singing that song. And with the power of those 700 people and all the rest of us who sing this song in our hearts, in our souls, knowing the words or not, there is hope. And there is light. Just keep that in mind as we sing it in a little while. We will go home by another way. Amen.